Has anyone ever fallen for someone, only to find out they 35 male are extremely racist? Within 2 months, I was having pangs of intense feelings for this person. He was sweet, vulnerable, handsome. I could go on, but it's bizarre describing him in good terms right now. Gross racism. Within 2 months, the true racism started coming out, especially anger at interracial couples, and comments about lovers and hideous things about their procreation, stuff I don't even want to type. On top of it, he was disappointed I didn't agree, and I could see anger percolating there. Has anyone been in this situation? I can't respect myself and stay involved, however I'm wondering if anyone else has been in a situation like this. There were warning signs that he could be a racist, but they were demographic or socio-economic, nothing about how he acted prior. Edit, I'm so pissed. Why do people like that try to date in society instead of just joining a hate group and finding their mate there? WTF. I'm glad you saw his true colors and were able to dodge that bullet. I think in this day and age there are a lot of ways you can tell. Especially if you can tap into their social media. In truth, people can try to wear a mask and hide this kind of stuff. But no matter what, if you spend enough time with someone, their true self will eventually reveal itself. I've even heard stories where the person was a master at hiding it and they weren't revealed until they moved in together. What were the warning signs? To answer your question, people usually send their representative for the first 6 months. Meaning they are on their best behavior for the first 6 months, and then after that their true character comes out. This person you are seeing now is just a taste of their true character, and it'll probably just get worse. Walk away now if you don't like what you're seeing. It's not going to get better. These are true character flaws that won't change. A racist isn't going to stop being racist. I wasn't in love with him, but after 4-5 months of dating he said, "I wish you were white," then went on a rant disparaging women of color because they are fat, dark, and ugly, but luckily I was skinny and light-skinned. Long story short, we broke up not too long after that. I wish I broke up with him right then and there, but I was just so shocked. I confronted him, but my 19-year-old insecure self stupidly stayed. Within a month we went to the mall, and out loud he started making fun of a girl wearing a backless shirt. She was chubby, so he was saying how gross and ridiculous she looked. I'm pretty sure she could hear him. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I broke up with him. Leave. He sounds like the abusive type. No, but I later found out he was ultra-conservative in other ways. Like, women belong in the kitchen shit. I didn't exactly fall for him, but I liked him a lot, and he was white. One day in casual conversation he told me when he's around white friends they joke about black people being poor and black men not having jobs. I asked if they say the N-word, and he said sometimes. Then all the affection I had for him disappeared and I kicked him out of my apartment. It's not worth dealing with someone like that. I wish he would have told me from the beginning that he views black people as inferior. This man was kind, loyal, etc. until I found this out. One of the best guys I ever met who bought me anything I wanted, but we can't do racists. Racist? No. Massively homophobic, yes. I had a man that I used to date very briefly, mind you, that I decided to give another chance to recently. I'm divorcing. He had a pic on Facebook of him, some friends, and a Confederate flag. That was the deal-breaker. He'd deflect when we'd get into having serious conversations about it. I blocked him and am 1000% done. No clue if he's trying to find me, and I couldn't care less. This is something I talk about on the first date, along with sexuality and women's rights. I weed them out fast when I mention my bi-racial son. Yeah, how you feel. I made some RLLY good friends, then found out they were super homophobic. Ruined it for me. Why do people like that try to date in society instead of just joining a hate group and finding their mate there? I hate to break it to you, but they try to date in society because there are a lot more people who are either racist or willing to tolerate dating a racist in society than you may think. Racists are not hurting for girlfriends or boyfriends. I highly recommend you see that Seinfeld episode where Jerry realizes his girlfriend was racist. It's hilarious and just like your situation. To be honest, you can't even truly get to know someone until at least 1-2 years, in my opinion. You need time to see them when they're going through adversity to see how they cope with stress. Or at least that's my opinion. I'm not white, but I dated a racist guy in high school who thought interracial couples were unnatural, but I didn't count as not white since I was heavily Americanized. He's married to a first-generation Chinese woman now, and I truly wonder how he reconciles his racism with the fact that his wife is not white and neither are his kids. As for why they don't just have their own dating site, they don't actually think they're racist and think their views are widely acceptable. Not fallen on love but good friends with. 2020 made me realize that more than half my group was racist AF. No, because I always heavily discuss politics, intersectional stuff within the first dates. I really don't understand how months into a relationship 2020-2021 without knowing someone is racist? What was he saying about BLM? What about COVID and racism? Etc. Yes. Fell for a guy who showed hints of racism but never overtly. Then, one day, out of the blue he revealed his true thoughts against POC. I let him know my thoughts, supported by historical facts. He accepted the new knowledge, but was bona fide perplexed. Why does this bother you so much? Aren't you mixed? Needless to say, it very abruptly ended. Incredibly disappointing. To me the warning signs are that you felt intense feelings really early on. That's like early warning signs and red flags for a narcissist. Add the racism in and it seems like this guy probably engages in quite a bit of manipulation before dumping his gross rhetoric on people. If you fell, finding that out should make you get back up real quick. Yeah, the weirdest part is how he assumed you would be on board for it. My significant other's mad at me if I make 14.58 jokes, and she'd leave me with too much consideration if she thought I was actually racist. I feel like that's pretty standard and I'm baffled that he thought a normal person would be on board for it. I'd also be careful. Speaking of crime rates, low IQ Bible Belt racists are up there, so I would let him down easy, as they say, no matter how disgusted you are. Racists definitely deserve to go to the pits of hell. I was in this exact situation. Started dating who I thought was a great guy, eloquent and liked me a lot. Then the racism came out. You did the right thing by leaving this person. These types of people are evil. Wow. As awful as that is, at least it came out fairly quickly. Thank God you didn't marry him. Leave. I have a friend who I don't believe is racist by action, friendships, dating, but is continually indoctrinated to such thinking by fringe right, racist misinformation, influences. For instance, he tried to convey certain races are actually less intelligent based on IQ test scores. He's super against abortion too. So I said, listen, if these people are really not as smart, the only compassionate and meaningfully thing to do is give them extra support and help, right? Conversation didn't really go anywhere, because this "they're not as smart" is just meant as a cudgel. But I pressed him on it a few times to try to understand, so what, if they're not as smart, they should be killed or subhuman or what? What if they're not as smart? He had nothing. This happened to me with a super transphobic dude. You could tell he had some feelings hadn't sorted through about his own body, gender and sexuality, and I'm so glad I walked the fuck away from that. Super disappointing and frustrating, but at least it was only a few months for you. I feel so bad for people who learn these things and it's sometimes years into the relationship. Best thing you can do is bail and never look back. No, because I am block and can't ignore it. Why do people like that try to date in society instead of just joining a hate group and finding their mate there? I guess you could call them their hate mate? I can't say this has happened to me, but I'm just glad you're not a racist and proud of you for not staying with him. Racism is taught. We are not born with prejudices. It's unfortunate people raise their kids to hate others for being different. Sending you hugs. I believe you'll find your perfect match who won't promote hate. Had this happen with a girl once, it's better to find out early as possible. This sort of thing happens all the time, I assure you. You can only see so much at first. There have been many times a person has gotten a crush and then lost it after seeing more of their personality. My advice is, if you can no longer mesh with them, then drop them. Not always easy, but it's for the best. Oh geez. That's a dealbreaker for me. I am a white male and this is terrible. Anyone to act like that towards anyone for any reason is ridiculous. I guess I can say that, in white society there are just as many racists as black society. We both have racists on each side. It's just immaturity. And to say stuff about interracial couples is terrible. I dated a black woman recently that was very nice and intelligent. There's nothing wrong with interracial dating. Get away from this dude before he packs his pillowcase out. P.S. No wonder aliens say we're too immature for them to land on Earth, then someone would be racist to them and run them off. Sigh. I am not going to begin to understand racism and racist people. It boggles my mind that people hate on other people for skin color. I think we should talk about race and all our different colors and celebrate it, not hate on it. I also don't understand why anyone would hate on a mixed-race couple. I live in Australia, so mixed-race couples are just the norm here. I don't know how I would react in your position. I think a lot of swear words would be said and I'd storm off. I am sure you feel pretty deflated and I am sorry you had someone you like show himself as such garbage. I hope you find someone better. I believe we are all a little bit racist. Not to the point of hating people just based on skin color, only stupid people think like that. Just subconsciously. And I am sure even racist can be quiet charming. Look at Hitler. You don't think he got to Hitler by bursting onto the scene screaming, and my first order of business is to eliminate all the Jews and work on the rest after we dominate the world. Sure, but most of us drop them straight away. You know well and truly that is only the smallest part of his ignorance and intolerance. I was in a similar situation not long ago and turns out I opened the can of worms after trying to discuss the issues. It's difficult enough to find a man who even remotely understands the disadvantages of others and recognize their own privileges. I can tell you for sure, it is only the beginning. Dump his ass. The thing about racists is that they can be perfectly delightful, wonderful people as long as you are the right type of person. Hitler was that way. I have one uncle like that. I liked him a lot until his views became obvious. I get how it feels bizarre to list the good qualities of a bigoted person, how that in itself feels cringy. My uncle has a lot of good qualities and has done some very good things for socially and economically disadvantaged people, but I no longer speak to him due to his bigotry. I didn't experience it with racism per se, but I did date someone who was extremely sexist. Whenever we'd have discussion about politics and I'd mention how men are more privileged in this society, meaning with jobs, safety, earning etc., he would get extremely upset and call me a feminist Nazi and other similar slurs and say that women already have as close to equality as they can achieve and they should just accept things the way they are now. My friend was seeing a guy who turned out to be a racist. She just ended it right there as soon as she realized he revealed himself. The worst part about these people is they're not even a bit ashamed of themselves, and worse still, they just assume you think the same as them. Have they just coincidentally been around like-minded people their whole life and you're the first person in their lives who's not a racist, or are they just mental? Well, I hate to say this. But it was how some of us were raised. Can I blame my father? Absolutely. I didn't see anything wrong with it until my daughter was born and she made a comment and that blew me out of the water. I didn't want to raise my daughter the way I was raised. There is no excuse here. But I look at my daughter now and I did a good job raising her. She has zero tolerance for it, and the reason I know is because she calls me out on it. You might tell him how you feel again. It is hard to change, but it can be done. I am proof of it. I am sorry, disappointed. There were warning signs that he could be a racist, which you picked up based on his age, income and race. This has got to be a troll post. If it isn't, then you already know the answer and it's likely you aren't actually asking this in good faith. Look, at the end of the day you just gotta do what you think is right. Do you honestly want to stick around with this guy? Like, is this the only problem or is there more? I was a few months into a relationship when a guy revealed he was named after Nathan Bedford Forrest. Woman facepalming, medium light skin tone. There were no signs before that. This reminds me of my ex. She was a closet racist. You know, the ones who are not openly saying offensive or racist things. I only found out when one day I was with her I was attacked in a racist altercation with someone. She immediately accused me of being in the wrong and told me it was my fault for getting attacked. A week later she doubled down on her racism and continued to blame me. Dating as a POC is rough. I say be careful. I'm assuming you're Caucasian and he may have assumed that he could indoctrinate you into white supremacy culture. White supremacy groups are more covert these days, preying upon people's vulnerabilities and slowly introducing white supremacy ideology. I bet if you dig deeper into his background you may find some affiliations to white supremacy groups. If you think that time and discussion could correct him on his views, and he's worth the investment, then I'd say that's an admirable thing to do. Too many people cancel racists instead of trying to educate them into not being racists, the net result of cancel culture in this case being you don't reduce the number of racists. On the flip side, if you think it's too deeply ingrained in him, then yeah, that's pretty fucked up. AMF, I get your disappointment. It's worrying that so soon into the relationship he's showing these tendencies. Yes, I've had a similar experience before. Once we started dating though, his true colors started to reveal themselves. And to be honest, it got to a point where I couldn't stomach being in the same car with him. There's just a blatant disrespect for anyone that was slightly different to him. When I had mentioned that the things he was saying I found disrespectful and very rude, I was shut down. So I shut down that relationship pretty quick after that. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, and sad to know how often it happens to folks. One way I would avoid that in the future would be to ask a lot of questions before getting in too deep. I'd ask a potential partner, how do you feel about _______, or did you see _____ in the news? How do you feel about that? For our first in-person coffee date, I'd wear one of my BLM t-shirts and gauge his reaction.